Our guest today is the man responsible for the very successful annual Rockers on Broadway events, which have featured everyone from Mickey Dolenz to Gene Cornish and Pete Townsend, one of my favorites, who actually started the event with our guest, Donnie Kehr. Donnie has a new album called Beautiful Strange on Rob Records / Jazz Heads.
That's right.
Please welcome Donnie Kehr. Yeah, and good thing that you said that because I can't see with even these reading glasses. It's kind of hard.
All right. Hi there, man.
Nice
to see you, brother.
Nice to see you again. We were making this pretty much a yearly event where you and I will sit for an interview, which means two things. We're both still alive.
Yes.
And we're both working on something.
Yes, correct.
So let's get to the questions that we have for you right away, because I know everybody's on limited time here. Okay. Many people don't realize that you were a certified rocker back in the good old days with a band called Urgent. Want to tell us about Urgent and the type of music Urgent rocked out to?
Sure. Urgent was on EMI Manhattan Records, and we did 2 albums with some moderate success. The band was assembled with me and my 2 brothers, Mike and Steve, and a gentleman named Yul Vasquez, and bass player was Cliff Black. And we did a couple albums. The first album was produced by Ian Hunter and Mick Ronson. Mick Ronson being from Ziggy Stardust and Spiders from Mars, guitar player for David Bowie, and then Ian Hunter from Mott the Hoople. So they produced our first record, and we had that record that got into the top 100 Billboard charts, and we had the video. I had hair back then. It did, but yes, Urgent was a rock and roll band, similar to a Foreigner or a Journey. Very much in that vein. We were a melodic band with an edge, and back in the day, back in the 80s, every snare drum was huge. We had to have the big snare. We had to have the big guitars. But it was a fun time in my life. I was 21. I was a kid, and just living the rock star dream at that time.
The new album, Beautiful Strange, is definitely not Broadway-oriented material. Tell us a bit about the songs that we'll find on the album.
Well, I kind of put it this way. It's, to me, a scrapbook of memories in tune. I took a lot of time to make that record because I wanted to pick and choose the songs right. And even though I had written something like 60 songs, I only chose 10 of them to go on the record. Actually, I recorded 17 of them, but then I decided, okay, let me pick these 10 and put that out. There's going to be a follow-up record coming up next year, but it was really important for me to put out there these particular songs, because they were about certain people that influenced my life in a big way. And but yeah, why I scrapbook of memories in tune is because some of them I'd written them 10 years ago. Some of those songs have been written a while back, but I never got a chance to record them. So, that's where that goes. One of the last track on the record is a song called Better Late Than Never, which was about my dad and I's relationship. I didn't meet my dad until I was much older in my life. And I finally met him, and then we started talking, and I realized, what a great, good person he was. I didn't know. And, when you're a kid and you meet your dad at 21, you have a lot of questions, and you also don't know what this person is going to be like, but my mom had never said a bad thing about him. But then again, my mom was an angel, so she just wouldn't say, never said a bad word about him. And then I met him, and, I had questions, and I asked him, and we sat down and talked through a bunch of stuff. And I grew to respect him tremendously, because I understood that sometimes, even though marriages don't work, which I've been involved in, it doesn't mean that you don't love that person, or that you can't move on with your life, or that you hate that person. It's not always that way. So I found a new sense of, excuse me, there's a motorcycle going on behind me here.
Beautiful music, man. Just enjoy.
That's right, man. There was there was a sense of learning about someone who I came from. I had no idea who he was, and then when I learned about who he was, I was impressed. And he was a good man. And I lost him just after I finished the album. He went on, but I got to play him the song literally the day before he died, and he was really pleased, and I was pleased that I was able to write it. It's one of my favorite songs on the record. But yeah, so that's one story regarding that record.
You'll be at the Steve Walters Cutting Room on June 2nd playing Beautiful Strange tracks. June 4th?
June 4th, yes. Sunday, okay. June 4th. Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, whoever my note taker was that passed along the notes, I mean, just a bad job.
What kind of publicist is this? I mean, really? I can't work with people. Come on, people.
He must be a cartoon character in Warner Brothers. Anyway, give us some intel on that show that's coming up, that you're going to play these cuts from your new album, Beautiful Strange.
Yes. Okay, so I'm putting the band together, and we're going to play the entire album of Beautiful Strange on June 4th in New York City at the Cutting Room, and on 32nd and I think it's Park Avenue. And that'll be at 8:00. And I'm putting together, here's the coolest thing about this show that I'm doing is my brother Steve, who is my favorite drummer ever.
The great Steve Kehr.
My brother Steve Kehr, he was the drummer in Urgent. And then he went off and did some other things, and he's done very well. But it's an interesting story. 3 years ago, he said, I haven't played drums. I said, well, we got to change that. So I said, so I bought him a drum set, and I said, come on, let's do some gigs and have some fun. And we did. We played a couple of shows, and he was getting really exhausted after the shows. And his son, my nephew Charlie, said, hey, why don't you go get checked out, Dad, see what's going on? And so he did. And he went to the doctor, and the doctor kept him in the hospital. He had open heart surgery 2 weeks later. They said he was a walking time bomb. If it hadn't been the drum set or playing drums, he would have never known that his arteries were completely closed. So he had some surgery. They had a couple of stents put in, a new valve, and now he's back, and we're going to play together on this concert on June 4th. We're going to play my album, and it'll be the first time we're playing original music in something like 30 something years, so since Urgent. So I'm very excited about that. I get to play with my brother again. My brother Steve. Yeah.
Side note, yeah. Men listening and women listening, you could start pestering. We get to a certain age where, as men, you have to get your PSA checked, your prostate checked, and go to the doctor on a regular basis, get the blood work, have them do the EKG, and make sure you're good to go, because we don't want to check out anytime soon. Want to live as long as we can, because let's face it, our kids depend on us.
Exactly. In my case, my dog. Yes.
Well, that dog needs you,
Yes,
I mean, so you got to be healthy for your dog.
Yes.
And we need you. We'll get to Rockers on Broadway in a second, what that's all about. Strange. Mm-hmm. The album itself is a hit with the Polish people. I mean,
huge.
What the heck is going on?
It's so wild. I was talking to Randy from the record company the other day, and he goes, oh, well, you've hit 100,000 hits in America. He said, but in Poland, you got like 300,000. You're going nuts in Poland. I'm like, really? I had no idea. You know, isn't it wild how we only think about America and we forget about the other 9/10 of the globe. So I might have to make a trip out to Poland.
Rock Krakow. Yeah.
Poland.
I mean, you know,
They should also
send you a lifetime supply of free ham.
I'm thinking
that canned ham. I mean, that we grew up on that stuff. That's really actually very good when I think about it. The canned ham.
Actually, it is
Polish ham. That's really good. Now I'm hungry. All right, let's change gears. We have the album Beautiful Strange on Rob Records Jazz Heads. And I guess you could tell us you should be able to tell us where the record is available. Of course, it's available on iTunes, right?
Yes, it's available on iTunes, anywhere you can download music. It's on Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, Deezer. So it's in all these, anywhere you can download music. I also have a CD. I've just printed some CDs, but for any information, you can visit my website, Donnie Kehr, DonnieKehr.com.
Great. You know, maybe we'll figure out how to put a link from the NEWHD radio site to the Donnie Kehr site.
Definitely. Now here's a good.
Obviously, I can't pronounce it, but
no, you just gave me a good story. So, for my entire life, everybody's asked me, is it Kehr or Kehr? Because it's spelled Kehr. So I met my grandfather on his deathbed, and I went down there to see him, and I went down to Florida, and he was in the hospital, and I said, I have one burning question I need to ask you, Grandpa. Is it pronounced Kehr or Kehr? And he said, well, it depends on what you're wearing. If you're wearing jeans, it's Kehr. If you're wearing a tux, it's Kehr.
Good observation from Pop. Yeah, I have a polyglot in the house, so I'm exposed to all kinds of languages. So I try to say something. Now it's gotten to the point where I go to Starbucks and my brain gets frozen because I don't know what language to order in. It's just that happens. So it could be a reason why I slip so much. Let's talk about Rockers on Broadway. I think that this is one of the greatest organizations and events. You're going into your 30th year. It'll be in Rocktober, on Rocktober 16th, as we used to say in NEW. But now we have the NEWHD, which is NEWHD New York, where Rock lives. And I'm really hoping at that point we'll be able to work together to really make this event and push it even further over the top. This is something, Donnie Kehr, that we have to keep doing long after our mortal lives are over, because the mission of Rockers on Broadway is very important. Explain the mission of Rockers on Broadway.
Okay. Rockers on Broadway is the show, and it is produced by an organization called the Path Fund, which is a non-for-profit organization, official 501c3 company that donates to arts education. We basically help kids find their artistic path, whether it be singing, writing, music, or painting, or screenplays, or whatever, writers, however they want to go. Even if they want to become stage managers, there's different ways of being in the business of show, but not actually being on the stage. So,
or how about radio disc jockeys?
Could be very much.
Okay,
so.
That's where I'm going with this.
I might have to have you. I know you might have to have some kids on your show and
absolutely.
Show them how to do it.
We can have a full-blown training program, Donnie.
Really?
We need radio people of the future. The beauty of what we do is that if you have a disability, let's say autism, or there's other people, we have a radio personality with spina bifida. Yes. And what you and I take for granted, you and I, even as old as we are, we can get up, crack a lot as we move, and go from house to stage and back home again. Not so easy if you have a disability. Well, we've gotten to the technology to the point where A person can be a full-fledged radio personality from the safety of his or her house.
Yes.
Very simple.
Yes.
What we're doing here is an example of that technology.
Yes.
And what we do is we send the radio station to the personality, they log in, and it comes up just like it would if you were at a studio in New York City. You have the whole radio station in your hands. Come on, let's sing it, everybody. He's got the whole radio station
in his hands.
The whole radio station in his hands. Anyway, so that's how it enables people to fully participate in an inclusive environment that breaks down all kinds of barriers and is worldwide in application.
Yes. You know, who knew? I never knew that a blog would become, you know, an audible thing. You know, is it a blog, or is it what do they call it now?
Well, now we call it podcasting.
That's what I'm talking about.
But I wanted to one up that. I think like the Imagineers of Disney. How can we take this technology and make the most of it to make the biggest impact across all social barriers and all different backgrounds? And the power of music is healing. It's a healing force. It connects in meaningful ways. Everybody can go off into imagination land when they hear a song, and it means something different to each and every one of us, and that's okay. It's about that. But what I have designed on my side, and I have to have passion for it, because you have to believe in what you do, and you know that, Donnie. This is a new era of technology and a new way of presenting radio. That's what we call it to scale, and the barrier to entrance is very low. Not only that, I have the ability to aggressively promote the artist. So you and I can have a conversation about your album, and you know it's going to be played more than that one visit that you make to the radio station where the disc jockey BS's you. Well, we're going to play it all the time. Yeah. And you know, you might even do a free show for the radio station. And as soon as you're done, they drop it, and you go, "Hey, I thought you were going to support my music." Yeah. You know, that's the business, man. Every 10th of a point counts. And I don't even care about that stuff. I think that we'll have millions and millions of listeners as we make this thing grow and make meaningful connections to to communities around us. Also, to offer opportunity for people to express themselves. And that's really important. And also, too, Donnie, another thing I could go about. I know we didn't expect to talk about this, but here's something that's near and dear to me. Paying competitive wages for people with disabilities. I don't think that people understand that there's a law, sub-minimum wage, in which companies can pay people as little as 23 cents an hour to work for them. And this is legal. Wow. It's legal. People have no idea. They think I'm making it up. You can look it up yourself. Sub-minimum wage. This is a way to have low-cost labor. It's slavery, slave wages. So we don't want to do that. We want to
live on that.
You can't live on that. And, you know, another way of, you know, putting this into, I guess, perspective, during COVID-19, Donnie, if you noticed, when you wanted food, you can go on an app to whatever supermarket and it'd show up at your doorstep. Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. Or you went to the supermarket and you had to wait outside, and that you know, the shopping cart would come full of stuff.
Yes.
Did you ever notice the kids packing that and stocking the shelves were usually disabled or had Down syndrome or something like that?
Yes.
During that time, there were no vaccines. Nobody knew how the disease was spread. They had an idea. We were told to wash our hands and stuff like that.
Right.
I don't think that certain people really cared whether they lived or died, as long as everybody got their food. I want everybody that's watching and listening to think about that, how wrong that is.
Zach, I want to tell you something. There's a song on my record called New York City Strong. And that song was written for the first responders and the caregivers during COVID. Because what I realized is when we were shut down, I was so enamored by the people that came out no matter what was in the air, no matter what the danger was for us of this terrible COVID-19 thing, making sure people were fed, making sure people were safe or indoors or had a place to go. And it was it's like the true New Yorker comes out during those times, because even though yourself are worried about yourself, you're out there making sure everybody is being fed or, needs assistance, bringing groceries to the door of an elderly person. And I thought, this is beautiful. This is how life should be anyway. Why does it take COVID for us to get to that place? But I was really proud of our city. So I wrote this song called New York City Strong, and it's on my album, Beautiful Strange. But to get back to, I want to just get back to Rockers on Broadway Path Fund. Yes, this October 16th, it will be our 30th year of doing this. And it's something I started with Pete Townsend when we were doing, during the run of the original cast of Tommy on Broadway. And it was just a chance to, first of all, it was just a chance to play with a rock star, but the energy that we got from Pete on stage when he was playing with us, it was completely opposite of any theatrical thing that I'd ever been involved in, or in rock and roll or whatever. It was just a different feel of it was an energy of the rawness that you don't get as an actor on stage when you're doing a show. When you're doing a Broadway show, you rehearse and you got to be in a certain spot where you're told to go, dance a certain step, sing a certain song. But we think about where a lot of that comes from and why it became what it was. The Who's Tommy was, a rock opera that Pete Townsend wrote with some of his members of the Who, but really predominantly it was written by Pete. And to have him on stage with you, for instance, in the show, I sang Pinball Wizard. Now, that was one thing. I sang with an orchestra and it was terrific and fun, but it was a whole nother thing when I sang it with Pete standing next to me. It sort of lifted my whole game up, and my whole performance changed once I did that. And I wish there was more of that. And that's why I do Rockers on Broadway, because I give it the kids out there and the youth. And like when I was young, I got to work with Pete Townsend, and it was a dream come true. But it was, and also then, for the Who's Tommy album, for the Broadway record, we worked with George Martin for 3 days, and not too shabby.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And George Martin was there and just sweet as ever. But we had to be on our game, of course. It was like we had 3 takes and that was it, So it's funny though, but I did when I was doing Tommy, when we were recording that album, I remember George Martin came into the studio and he said, "All right, don't sing." I was right when I'm about to sing Pinball. And he said, "Don't sing. Just think the lyrics and the notes will come. Don't try to worry about the notes. The notes are there. Just think lyrically what you want to say." And which was a good acting note. It was like, okay, if I just think about what I'm saying, he says, "Your notes are there. Don't worry about it." So I did it. And he said, "Okay, let's try it again." We did it 3 times, but he kept is the one he kept. So, but anyway, October 30th, 2020, October 16th this year, we're going to be doing the 30th anniversary. And I can't tell you yet who we're honoring because that's a secret at this moment. But
well, it ain't me.
Yeah. It's gonna be somebody pretty cool.
So let's just recap here. It's the 30th rockiversary of Rockers on Broadway.
Rockiversary, exactly.
On October 16th. How can anybody forget?
Dude, it's rocking.
How can anybody get tickets to the 30th rockiversary of Rockers on Broadway on October 16th?
All right. So on October 16th, for Rockers on Broadway, what you can do is you can either visit rockersonbroadway.com, or you can visit thepathfund.org. Either one. And there'll be tickets there that you can buy. But tickets are not on sale yet. So I think we're going to have to wait another month or two.
Okay, well, start visiting the site now so that you can put an alert and make sure you get those tickets, because they will sell out fast for Rockers on Broadway, which is on October 16th as they celebrate the 30th Rockiversary.
That's right. That's
Donnie
right.
Kehr, thanks so much for spending some time with us. Look forward to hearing the whole album, Beautiful Strange. Donnie will be at the Cutting Room on June 4th, not June 2nd, June 4th, in which they'll play the entire album
live
on stage, live. Beautiful Strange.
That's right. Oh, thank you so much. It's Zach, it's always a pleasure to see you, and keep on rocking, dude.